Dr. Chuck, the science schmuck.
Synchronize. Well, I'm back, and I don't technically need to say synchronize anymore. I guess it's turning into my catchphrase, because I don't really need the headpiece, because, you know, that thing kept getting in the way and it got swallowed. But, as you can see from this, my caulk is hard. Finally, after all this time, my caulk is finally hard. Wet. Ugh. You know, that's one of those times where you ask yourself, why is it wet? That's something I ask myself on a daily basis. You know, you reach under a movie theater seat or you grab someone from behind, like, why is it wet? Regardless, my caulk has actually been hard for a very long time, perhaps too long, because I don't think your caulk can get too hard, but it is waterproof. That's why it's wet. I sent it through the shower. I do have a shower. I do bathe, so stop complaining about the smell. Just kidding. Nobody's actually complaining about the smell because smell-o-vision never really caught on. I wonder why. That should be the... I'll write it down when I figure out how to read. Regardless, now we're actually going to get to the stage where we start putting stuff in the Winogradsky column to make it actually, you know, Winograd. That's not a verb, it's the name of a person. So, scientifically, what actually makes the column work? Well, the first stage is that bacteria ferment something to produce carbon dioxide. The something, in this case, is paper. Wet paper. Oh, why did it turn the water brown? Oh well, I don't really want to know, nor do I care. Paper. Where did I get this brown paper? Because in New York, there are no longer plastic bags at the store. There are brown bags, and they are really cheap. It's like 5 cents a bag. Like, I can't buy that much paper any other store. So you just go and you buy like a lemon and you get like 70 bags, just chew them up and use them to make stuff. Or eat them. You can even eat them. I mean, there's a piece. That was a mistake. Now, the paper is obviously not in the greatest state for use. So what I have here is this blender. It did explode slightly the last time I used it because one of the blades broke off and went pfft, but I didn't lose a finger, so that means I have a good track record. So you're going to want to take your pre-wet paper. Blending dry paper is super challenging. I mean, I guess it's possible. Stick that in there. Papery. It does not taste good, by the way. And a key to blending any object is that it needs juice. Juice. Always remember the lid when you're blending. And don't stick your finger in it. I'm surprised that worked. Well, it doesn't smell great. As you can see, it's now semi-digested papery pulp. The pulp is always a good thing. So, next step you're going to need is what am I, a pig? A mixing bowl. There's still a little bit of beets in this from what I was eating before, which was beets, I think. It has a very... I'm not going to say it. You know what it is. Or what it will be. So, that provides the cellulose. Bacteria, especially Clostridia, break down the cellulose to release carbon dioxide. That moves up through the column to the top, which provides, you know, a carbon source, but also allows for cyanobacteria to begin processing things, and eventually leads to the creation of a sulfur gradient. But the question is, how does the sulfur get in there? Paper, despite the taste, does not have that much sulfur. Well, the best source of sulfur for a project like this is sulfur, elemental sulfur. It's yellow. I used to live in Texas. I lived next to a giant mountain of it that I didn't know was there, but apparently was responsible for that weird smell. It doesn't dissolve in water. It's this big old heap. Elemental sulfur is the ideal source for this. Traditionally, the sulfur source is usually an egg. You just eat an egg. I don't have any eggs. Eggs are expensive, and it hurts when they come out. To me. Apparently you're supposed to chew them, I guess? So what I have instead is this. What is this? This is calcium. No, not calcium. That is the other option you can use. This is magnesium sulfate. So the analog to this is calcium sulfate, which is gypsum. Like if you broke down drywall, that would also work in this project if you didn't really have a source of this. This is Epsom salt. It's like $5 for a 5-pound bag. It's super cheap. Drugstores, Walmart's got it. It's magnesium sulfate. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I ate some of this. Not a good idea. It's not tasty, like metallic salt. So, ugh, not feeling great from that. But on with the show. So this provides the sulfur source, which the sulfate gets broken down into hydrogen sulfide, which other bacteria then use to produce energy by converting it into hydrogen, well, breaking off the hydrogen and converting it into metal sulfides, like iron sulfide, which is what generates, that's the bacteria that are very pretty. So, throw in some of this. It's non-toxic. It's salty. Okay, so I've added some salts. Now the question is, that metal source, right? So we're going to need metal. Okay, got the metal. Now we're not working with paper or ordinary medicinal salt. Like you can actually like eat that, you can put it on wounds, you can put it in your eyes. I'm using metal oxides now. A little worse. I don't really want to get them on me too much. Well, it smells like what used to be in the jar, which is peanut butter. What is this stuff? Can you see it? That is iron oxide with large quantities of chromium oxide. I get it because when I'm done with razor blades, I don't like throwing them away because I feel like the garbage man's going to cut themselves. So I dissolve them and convert them into oxide powder. It's sort of a reddish color. It's basically, oh great. Well, it stains your hands too. That's neat actually, that's pretty cool. Yeah, had to wash my, it didn't even come off. That stuff stains real bad. So I don't want to get it in my eye. The next substance I want to add is not a traditional component of a Winogradsky column. Usually at this stage you would add carbonate, which if you're using eggs, you grind up the eggshells. I don't have eggs. I have bone meal. Yes, it is real. It's not just something that Minecraft made up. It is a type of fertilizer made from ground up animal bones. It is incredibly smelly and weirdly hard to find. It also provides, oh, touching it's not nice. It's this sort of brown stuff. That's dead animal bones. It's good fertilizer. Lots of phosphate, because that's what's in bone is calcium phosphate instead of calcium carbonate. Throw in a bit of bone. Ew, it's on me. Ugh. I stuck my hands in lots grosser. So, you got your mixing stick. This one is actually something that I don't want to get the combined mixture in my eye, so goggles on. Well, that's a reek. Oh, that's probably one of the worst things I've smelled in a couple days. And I've smelled a lot of things in the past few days. Okay. Now you see it's a sludge. That's the nutrient mixture that we're going to be percolating into bacteria. Oh, my hand's still covered in bone. But you require a bacterial source. The usual bacterial source is mud, like this. Not this. This is a much different reagent that has a different purpose. Ugh. Never confuse the two, although I think the dirty river mud would taste better. It will make you poop forever, though. You don't want amoebic dysentery. Now, the source I'm using, because this stuff has a problem in that there are roundworms, like, yeah, that's why I didn't want to drink it. They get stuck in the column and they burrow to the top to get air, which leaves channels, which prevents the gradient from forming properly. They do eventually die, but I don't want to add them into the primary mixture. What I have instead is my old Winogradsky column. This one's pretty much depleted. Now, if I hold it up a little closer to you, you can probably see this one's already developed gradient. Greens and purples. Now what the purple there actually is, I don't know if you can actually see the color, but what the purple actually is photosynthetic bacteria. If you recall your evolutionary history, photosynthesis actually evolved more than once in the bacterial kingdom. Yes, it's a bacterial thing. Bacteria came up with it first. Photosynthesis in plants is really just the fact that the plants have symbiotic bacteria, which is what chloroplasts are. There's many different mechanisms for photosynthesis. This one uses a purple pigment to produce, in anaerobic conditions, with sulfur to produce energy from light. So it's completely different than what you see in plants, but it's still photosynthesis. A weird thing that a lot of people don't realize, that there's more than one kind of photosynthesis. Now, opening this up, one thing you do have to consider is the fact that these have a lot of hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide is almost like water. It's a big sulfur with two hydrogens. It's a gas. It's, one, ridiculously flammable, produces, sulfuric acid, not technically sulfuric acid, but burning, it produces water and sulfur dioxide, which is sulfuric acid. And I think an ice cream truck is going by. Regardless, hydrogen sulfide can suffocate you in a matter of minutes. So, if this were huge, like one this wide, I wouldn't be opening it indoors or standing near it. This is a little tiny one though, so hopefully this air volume is big enough that I won't die. Now this will disrupt the layers, and it probably will smell incredibly bad. Fortunately, as I discussed previously, you don't have smell-o-vision, so you're not going to be able to detect it. The material in here contains already purified amounts of... Oh, it smells even worse than it did before. As you can see, it's sort of black. That black is the presence of metal sulfides and so forth from the fermentation process previously. Now, it does appear that most of the actual purpliness is on the surface of the glass, which makes sense. The muck is opaque, right? So you're only going to see... Excuse me, I'll get a glove. You're only going to see photosynthesis on the very surface because that's the only place the light is. Good stuff. I probably will clean out this jar and drink from it. No, I don't drink from vases. I drink from jars. That one I will clean out and drink from, and that one I'm already drinking from. So there you have it. Well, it's not the worst smell, actually. I mean, it's very sulfury, but, sort of earthy? I don't know. I wouldn't want to live in a room that smells like that, but if I smell it walking down the street, I wouldn't feel too bad. It's probably important not to touch this stuff either. It probably has a lot of Clostridia. I mean, it's been growing anaerobically with, eggs and paper, which is what Clostridia eat. So if you were to have a cut on your finger, it would get slightly infected. If you were to actually take a nail, dip it with this, and stab yourself, you'd probably die of gangrene. Clostridium perfringens, although technically speaking, gangrene is caused by a lot of different things and not necessarily Clostridia. All right. Other glove. Now comes the filling component. So, I've got my column here. let me stand up. See, a funnel. I don't know how well this is going to work because this stuff is chunky. I don't know if you can hear the sound. It's slightly satisfying. Uh-oh. That's why we worried about the chunkiness. It's clogged. Always be prepared to unclog your chute. Okay. That's a pretty good amount. I don't think I'm going to use the whole thing. I'll add a little bit more. Okay, so that will settle down to probably about here once it's all, settled, but there's other ingredients I want to add in addition to the initial culture medium. For example, this. This is juice from a river. It's actually from Bear Trap Creek, which is, over yonder in an area where I live. It's, according to legend, that river never freezes because of the wash from the airport up the stream puts in so much de-icer that it just doesn't ever freeze. Neat, huh? That's where the source originally came from. It's just a little creek. I caught it near a drainage culvert before it goes under the highway. Supposedly you shouldn't go in that culvert because you'll get, tons of spiders. But I might go in that culvert when it's warmer out. So, grab myself some of this. Oh, that's even thicker. Oh, wow, that stuff's even smellier. Now, why am I putting this on top of the other stuff? Because this stuff does contain live worms. Worms only move up toward oxygen. So I don't want them disturbing the lower levels where the sulfur reactions are occurring. I want them to move upward. Toward other reactions, towards the air interface. I don't want them interfering with the bottom layers. But I do want them there. Okay, so as you can see, it's now largely filled with this sort of gross debris up to, here, but it will settle. It's all over my hands. Good thing I'm wearing these big old gloves. The next thing I want to add to the project is sand. Why sand, you ask? Well, sand produces a buffer that, one, keeps oxygen out of the lower levels, but also provides an area that bacteria can colonize and become colorful. It'll probably turn into the green layer in most of these things. Because that's usually how they break down. You'll have a green on the top, then green anaerobes, which are bacteria, then purple anaerobes, then black stuff at the bottom, which is what's actually breaking down the sulfur and making hydrogen sulfide. Okay, then on top of that, I want to add rocks. These are actually from the Tick project. If you recall, I sifted the concrete. Now I have an abundance of gravel. They will provide a home for aerobic bacteria that live close to the top, which is not normally a part. This would be sealed completely for a normal Winogradsky column. Now I'm producing a layer that's meant for aerobic bacteria, which are not normally present. Okay, rocks also don't fit in the funnel very well. Let's add some water to fill in that space. Okay, as you can see, the water is actually absorbing into the sand layer and percolating everything out. It'll take probably a half an hour before it's actually all fully settled. The actual layer is about here, so I have this much area to plant, small plants and stuff. Maybe have a couple micro shrimp or something. The rest is all pure bacterial force. And an air bubble. Another air bubble. You want to avoid air bubbles. Oh, I hope this doesn't burst on me. It'd be so gross. The other thing to note is that this will require to be normal. In a normal Winogradsky, you cap them. They're sealed, right? So gas can't escape. The oxygen leaves the air, and it's replaced with hydrogen sulfide and other gases, so it's an anaerobic reaction. In this case, not so much, because I want to have this aerobic layer on the top. So, I'll cap it loosely, mainly because this vessel isn't meant for pressure. If you cap something like this and you pressurize it, you know what's going to happen. It's just going to, your caulk will break, and then there will be, you know, gross stuff everywhere. So I will cap this, fill it completely once it's required for filling. So, jump cut in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I put a cap on it, a lid. That is going to sit right there and hopefully not fall over. I'll rinse off the surface and then put it next to a window or other light source. It does need light to operate. Ugh. Whew. Okay, so with that, that column is now ready for use. It'll take a weirdly long time to actually become fully functional, like a month. So in a later episode, this was just a construction episode because I felt like it. So in a later episode, I'll actually go back and say, look how it turned out. And then you'll be able to see it, you know, grow. If you've done this at home, yours should light up a very variety of weird bacterial colors, from green to dark green to purple to black, like this. And with that, that's the conclusion of this very long episode. Probably physically in time, not for you, but it took me like 6 months. So, you don't need to like or subscribe. I, in fact, get an average of 0 viewers on these. Doesn't matter that much to me. I'm doing it for the lols, because new meme is new. Extra.